So tell us about you growing up in. Was it the Wirral?
Rural, yeah.
Yeah. Tell us about that. Was it a posh area, or was it a?
Um, yeah, I mean, me and Andy were working class boys, and we didn't have any money, but our parents managed to kind of sustain our life in a quite a posh area, which is quite. So what's in central Liverpool, because central Liverpool in the 70s was, not a pleasant place to be.
It was like I remember Liverpool at that time was it was like some kind of post-war documentary. I thought
Exactly what it was.
still kids with no shoes on playing football in the street and stuff.
Yeah, it really was like that in the 70s.
Yeah,
But now Liverpool, thanks to the EU, and their billions of investment in that, it's a great city now. They basically bulldozed a whole part of the city and rebuilt it with the money from the EU, and it's a great city now.
it really is. I mean, I've done several projects, art projects, sound art projects there, and there's such a thrusting and forward-facing kind of. There's an attitude in the council and the people there that is like really quite impressive. It's almost like New Yorkian, in its opportunity.
It was a real vibrancy. Yeah, there's a real vibrancy. In the same way there is in Manchester these days as well.
Yeah.
But
Not so much as
Liverpool's.
Yeah.
No, true.
Unfortunately. That's fantastic. So tell us about when you started in bands in the 70s. You were in the ID, is that right?
Yeah, I was in the. I mean, initially, we were all kind of a school band, and I was the roadie. I couldn't play anything. So,
join the club.
Because my hobby was electronics as a kid, and from being 12, circuits, So they had a whole load of equipment that didn't work. So I used to go and help them when they did a gig at the school, in the school hall. I used to go and make sure that everything worked for them. And
Right, cool.
but then I kind of got interested in making these. And well, in fact, Andy and I, because Andy was in this band called Equinox first. This was the school band, and I got friendly with Andy, and we both realized that we had an interest in electronic music, and so I started making like stupid, like ridiculous noise-making machines that really weren't very musical at all, but we could process them through WEM copycats and things like that.
Yeah.
And so we used to just have experiment, just to experiment. And then I thought, well, I need to learn how to play the keyboard. So I bought a piano. And then I joined Equinox, which then we changed the name to the ID, but it was the same people. And then the ID was like an 8-piece with like guitar solos and all of these things.
Oh my God.
And Andy and I decided that we wanted to be more pure. Yeah, we wanted to be more purist. And so we used to just practice him, write crazy electronic things in my mum's back room, and but we were part of this sort of prog rock band because we thought no one would be interested in the kind of music we were making, So it was really a hobby of experimentation, really.
Yeah,
and it wasn't until same for you, I'm sure.
exactly.
But it wasn't until I heard, because we used to go over to Eric's Club in Liverpool. That was the place to be now. And we heard Daniel Miller, The Normal, Warm Leatherette. And we thought, wow, there's a movement here. There's going to be, we're not the only people thinking, because, this is pre-internet, isn't it? I mean, we had no idea what was going on in the rest of the country. I had no idea that you were doing similar things, and you probably had no idea we were doing similar things. And so when we heard The Normal, we thought, wow, maybe there is something to this electronic music, because we thought before that because we listened to Kraftwerk as kids, and Neu and La Dusseldorf and all of these bands, and they were our primary influence. But we thought, well, we can't actually be a proper electronic band. Sorry, Andy just ignored me. And we just thought, we thought that, you know, electronic music, to do it properly, we thought it would be prohibitively expensive. You know, Kraftwerk had all these amazing machines.
Exactly.
We were two working class boys from Liverpool. It's like, how can we do this and actually be a proper electronic band? But then the punk movement happened, and because we go to Eric's all the time, Eric's was primarily a punk club, and we thought, well, maybe we should just be doing kind of punk on synths, you know. And we wrote Electricity, which, you know, when you think about it, the song Electricity is kind of like a punk. It's like a punk, electronic punk song, really. You know, it's really super fast and driving, and, you know, it's always like two fingers playing it. You know, because I mean, also, you know, a lot of the electronic music was, you had to be proficient musician as well in those days to be taken seriously. But what punk gave us was this kind of new liberation where we could, you know, you could just get up on stage and do your own thing, and you didn't have to be musically proficient. You just had to have something to say, you know.
That's right.
And
so what was your big break in terms of? Were you signed first, or did you do support for bigger acts first?
Well, what happened was we were doing our own like small tours of the Northwest, playing, you know, pubs and clubs and stuff, and we played Eric's. One night we played Eric's, and there was some people there from Manchester, saw us, and said, why don't you come and play the Factory Club in Manchester? And it turned out that the Factory Club in Manchester was owned by Tony Wilson.
Yeah.
So who was about to start Factory Records. But he was a TV personality, for those who don't know, in Granada. And he used to put local bands on at the end of the news item. He used to give like airtime, you know, TV time to like really strange bands. I don't know how he got away with doing it, but he did. And so we just recorded Electricity on our 4-track, and we had a cassette of it. So when we met Tony at the club, we gave him the cassette, and just cheekily tried to get on the TV show. We had no idea he was starting a label, and so and then anyway, we didn't hear anything for a few weeks, and we thought, oh well, that's that. Yeah. And then we get a call, and he said, well, I can't get you on the show, but I'm starting this label, Factory Records, and I think I really want to release Electricity on Factory Records.
And you sang on that. You sang that. That's right. Is that right?
Yeah, me and Andy sung it together, but the recording, I'm louder than him actually on it. Yeah,
good.
But yeah. So, but actually, the true story is that Tony's wife. Tony wasn't sure about Electricity. He wasn't sure he liked it, but it ended up in a bag in their car. And Tony's wife was going through the bag of cassettes and said, oh, Orchestral Manoeuvres in the Dark. That sounds interesting. She put it in, and she said, you need to sign this. You need to sign this now.
Really?
So we kind of owe it to wife, really, yeah.
Incredibly.
Yeah.
So,
and then
yeah, go on.
So Tony went from not being sure to saying, we're going to sign you to Factory Records, but we're not big enough to handle you. We'll have to sell you on to a bigger label. And we said, yeah, sure. You know, we always thought Tony was a bit full of shit, you know.
Yeah.
But what he did was he sent Electricity down to all the labels, and we got a hit from Dindisc, which was a subsidiary of Virgin, you know.
Carol Wilson, right?
So Carol Wilson, yeah. So it all happened really ridiculously fast, to be honest. And we were like riding this roller coaster, and a door opened, and we thought, well, let's just walk through it and see what happens. You know, I mean, we felt we were no Opus, to be honest. I mean, we really did. All our friends thought we were shit. Yeah, they really did.
It's a good lyric. I mean, it's a good lyric. All our friends thought we were shit. That should be an opening line of a song. But now, Marley, now.
I mean, So we ended up signing a 7-album deal with Dindisk, right? And we thought it was a good deal at the time, but it turned out it was complete crap. We totally ripped off. But we said it was a 7-album deal. We were on the dole. Where do we sign? Think about lawyers and what was that percentage mean there?
Yeah.
But ended up on business. But we still thought we were still budgeting for failure. So we took the first advance that we got from Dindisk, and instead of using it to buy food and stuff, we just bought equipment. We built a studio in the centre of Liverpool, just down from the Cavern, in Matthew Street, and we built a studio. And we thought, well, when we get found out and Virgin don't, because we could see on these 7 albums that there was an option to dump us at the end of every album. So we thought, well, they're bound to dump us at the end of this album. So at least we'll see at the end of it and have a business.
Yeah. Just to say that everything you've been talking about so far is almost a mirror image of what happened with the early Human League. Almost identical, in fact. I mean, in terms of our attitude towards, we did the same thing. We invested just about everything into equipment and a studio because we just thought, at least we'll have that. We didn't know it was going to last.
Yeah. I mean, and also we were playing music that electronic music is now it's part of the it's part of everyday music, but electronic music then was it was an uphill struggle, really. I mean, even journalists didn't consider it real music, and people had this kind of feeling that synthesizers they wrote the song for you,
Oh yeah, just press the button and
I wish.
Yeah, exactly.
But, I'll be real music,
Yeah, exactly.
They're not even writing this.
Yeah.
So it was very easy to kind of not take yourself seriously because we knew what an uphill struggle it was. But what you and I didn't realize is that there was a movement beginning everywhere for electronic music, and we could ride that wave. We didn't know the wave was starting, but we were riding it anyway.
Yeah, I did an interview with Gary Newman, who I'd never met before the podcast, funnily enough. And his story is almost identical as well, except he was in a, obviously a straightforward guitar band, rock band format. And he said he just went into a studio and saw there was a Moog in the studio.
Moog, yeah.
And he started messing about it. He said, right, we're going to rewrite all the album we've just come in to record. We're going to do it from scratch.
Yeah, I think
this is the future.
I think Beggars Banquet had a heart attack at that point, didn't they? Because they thought they were getting a album.
Are you mates with Gary?
Yeah, know him really well, actually. Yeah, because he gave us our first live break because our Friends Electric was huge and Cars was huge, and we were just signing to Dindisk at that time.
Right.
But we've been touring with Joy Division. We used to do the factory tours, and there was us, Joy Division, and a certain ratio, all on the same bill, and we used to tour around. But we were still only playing because Joy Division weren't that big then either. We were only playing kind of clubs, and all of a sudden we had this. So what happened was we were playing this club in London, and after we'd done our set, there was a knock on our dressing room door, and Gary walked in and said, for the gig, and said, "Look, I'm doing this big tour, and I'm looking for the right support band, and do you want to join me?" And we said, "Gary, that would be great, but I don't know how we can afford to do such a big tour, and we've got no money." And he said, "Don't worry about it. You'll come on my bus. My crew will take care of all your gear, and I'll pay you enough to find a decent hotel."
Oh, that's lovely. Because people need to understand that in those days, the common thing was you had to pay good money to get onto tours. And that's what we did with Susie and the Banshees. We did 2 tours with them. And Virgin were forking out 40 grand a tour, for doing that. Yeah. And, so you were lucky.
Yeah, we were really lucky. And, Gary was such a sweetheart. Yeah. And we've never forgotten that gesture, so we've always kept in touch with him.
Oh, that's lovely. I really like that. He seems like a very decent person. I'm surprised our paths never crossed in the past. Anyway.
Yeah. He played the Royal Albert Hall last year, and invited me down there, and I went backstage to see him, and he gave me such a really big hug.
Yeah. He's doing well. His new album. His new album is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I know it is. I've heard. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think he's doing some great stuff at the moment. He's really reinvented himself, hasn't he?
He has. Yeah. I'm a total. Well, I'm late to the party, but I'm a total fan now.
Yeah. Well, me too. It's this really kind of dark, gothic, kind of slightly angry. I mean, sort of aggressive kind of sound, which I really like.
I like the whole thing.
He's
with
kind of
the makeup and everything.
Yeah. His the image he's reinvented. He reinvented himself really well, image-wise as well.
Yeah,
I love Gary.
Yeah, it's great. Okay, so tell me about you and Andy's relationship. I'm fascinated by it because, I know you really, really well, and obviously I know Andy as well, but I know you better probably because of Claudia and all that stuff. And tell me about how your relationship has evolved over the years.
Well, I first met Andy. We've known each other since we were 7 years old. Primary school. Yeah. So we're like brothers. We spent most of our lives together, and we're quite different people. And I think musically, the fact that we're quite different people and we approach things in completely different ways is the OMD sound, I think. Because I still think the best songs are written together, pretty much, with the exception of a couple. The best songs have been written together. Because I think we just have this kind of chemistry that's you can't describe it, but we just have this chemistry, and we'll walk into a room to write songs, and the end of the day we'll come out with something that's really interesting together. Because I think we've realized this recently that. We've been trying to do a new album, but I've been down in France and I haven't been able to move. I can't fly up to Liverpool. He can't fly down to France. And we're trying to write a new album. And we've got a few really good songs, but it's been difficult because the way we work best is that chemistry in a room together. All our stuff we've written together, And, I'll come in. One of us has to come in with an idea, either, if it's a lyric idea or a title of a song or whatever, or a sound idea. Someone just tosses it into the room, and then we just bat it between us all day or all week or whatever, and then we'll come up with something good. And I've written with a lot of different people, but I've never had that same thing as I have with Andy. It's I've got an incredible amount of respect for him as a songwriter. But what Andy is really brilliant at is lyrics. I think some of his lyrics are amazing. And he's great at top line vocals. He can write a catchy tune, and I can write a catchy keyboard tune. And so between us, we've done some good things.
Are you? Is it similar to the kind of Vince Clarke, Andy Bell thing? Do you think, in a way?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, they need each other, and Andy and I, we really need each other.
Yeah.
And I really do love writing songs with Andy. He's just a great person to write with, and he has really interesting ideas. Sometimes his ideas are just so far out that I'll have to reel them back in. But I love that, because if he hadn't had that far out idea, we wouldn't have developed it into something a bit more,
Well, it's interesting. On your Wikipedia site, it says something to the effect of Andy McCluskey. And this sounds like an insult to you, it's not? Or is the kind of head, the intellect, and that you're the soul of the band? Yeah. Do you think that's insulting, or is that accurate, or what do you think?
I can see what the quote is. I didn't write that, but I can see where the quote is. Because we do approach things in different ways. Andy is very conceptual. He's far more conceptual. So the head is, he'll come up with like the craziest idea for a song. like Enola Gay, for instance,
Yeah.
discovered the name of the plane that dropped the atom bomb on Hiroshima, and so I wrote a song about that, and he'll come up with like the craziest ideas for songs. I mean, it all kind of stems as well from the fact that we never wanted to write cliched love songs.
No.
And Andy never wanted to write cliched love. So he's always gone out of his way to find subject matter for our songs, and he's absolutely brilliant at it.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
We used to have a list on the wall in our studio of subjects that we couldn't use. And number one was we couldn't use the word love. We couldn't use the word world for some reason. I can't figure that one out. And I wish I'd got that list now. It was really interesting. It was like that typical kind of bolshy kind of Sheffield thing is this is our manifesto, And but actually it's a bit like I liken it to an artist only having a limited number of colours in their palette, and that's what they choose to do. It's like blue or something.
Yeah, I mean, we do that with music now. We approach it. We approach music like we're painting, because you know what it's like now. When we first started, synthesizers they were very limited. Our synthesizers anyway. We had a Korg micro preset. It was variations at and we had to kind of process through all kinds of machines to make it sound decent. But now these synths you have in an order, what's it called?
Inordinate.
Inordinate, thank you. Amount of options, and you can just get lost in all the possibilities and forget to write a song.
Yeah,
and
a lot with that.
And so what we do now is, particularly on the last album we did, Punishment to Luxury, we kind of decided on a palette to use so we didn't get lost in, we kind of chose a certain amount of drums. So, because, Andy and I will sit down, we go, okay, we need some drums. So I've got 2,500 kick drums. You've got 7,000 snare drums. Where do we begin? Right away.
I've got a great... I've got a great story for you about that, which is when the League were making the second League album after the split, and we kept getting reports back from Bob Last, who was managing them, and us at the same time, saying, I'm going to have to give this job up. I can't manage them anymore. They're in Air Studios at nearly £2,000 a day, and they just spent the last week auditioning kick drums and snares. And it's driving Martyn Russian insane, And
I haven't read it, Martyn.
Yeah.
But so it's really important to approach music that way these days.
Absolutely. In terms of the way, I've always really admired the way that you've, as a band, have presented yourself to the general public. In terms of the conceptual nature of what you do, I think it gives you an enormous strength, because on the one side you've got all these really catchy pop songs and conceptual depth with the lyrics, but you've got the amazing Peter Saville, and all the depth that gives. And I'm a big fan of graphic design, as you know. I'm big mates with Malcolm Garrett, who came out of Manchester at the same time, Peter Saville, and also Ben Kelly and all that mob.
Ben Kelly,
yeah. So tell me about, I'll tell you. Tell me how you met Peter Saville.
Yeah, funny actually, because we went for a meeting with Tony Wilson at Factory, and there was Peter, and he said, "I've got this great idea for your sleeve." He said, "It's going to be a black sleeve with black writing on it." We thought, black sleeve with black writing, but we thought, well, sounds like something interesting, because it was thermographed,
yeah.
So it's slightly shiny.
Yeah,
like on the mat.
Lacquered. Yeah.
It's like lacquered. Yeah. So So we met in there, and we loved that sleeve, and that won an award, that sleeve.
Yeah, it's great.
So, but we didn't think about Peter anymore for a while, because we just signed to Dindisc, and we thought, oh well, we'll be having to use the in-house art people at Dindisc.
Right.
So we did, for our first meeting at Dindisc, we walk up the stairs, and there's Peter Samuel. Peter, what are you doing here? And he said, he just hired me as the art director.
Oh, brilliant. Brilliant.
So it was like, oh, So that's why Peter did all our sleeves.
That's fantastic. I think you could, I'm sure people do, they could take those sleeves and put them in a gallery format, and they look great, and I've always had a big admiration for that sort of stuff.
Yeah. There was an exhibition at the Design Museum in London with all our sleeves in there.
Oh,
it was really kind of weird to see all our records as pieces of art, But that's essentially what they were. They were pieces of art.
Yeah.
And that created, It was a nightmare to work with, because he was always, Andy says this about me, actually, but he was always incredible. He was always incredibly last minute. And, we'd have the record done. It was all ready to go to manufacture, and we still didn't have a sleeve. And I remember once Andy and I got on a train from Liverpool to London, and we just went to his house and just hammered on his door. And he just didn't come down. We knew he was home, so we just kept hammering on the door. And Peter opens the door in his dressing gown, and we just kind of barged in and said, "Right, today, Peter, you're doing our sleeves." Like one sleeve, but we're not leaving until it's done.
Oh wow, that's a great story.
It was kind of slightly difficult to work with, but it was always worth it, because his sleeves were incredible, But it also stemmed from the fact that we didn't want, we didn't want to be celebrities. We had no interest in being celebrities at all. Although in certain aspects you can't help it, because you're on top of the pops, how many times so people recognize you. But we didn't want to be celebrities, and so we thought, right, well, we'll keep our faces off as much as we can keep our faces off, and just let the music speak for itself. And let's have a graphic design that represents the songs that are inside.
Yeah, we
so Peter.
Yeah, we with Henry we had the same attitude, as except our approach, instead of graphic design, was to use Ray Smith to create a kind of abstracted version or an impressionistic version of what we would be like. It's a bit like being the Archies or something, I think.
Yeah.
It's like more like mythical characters than reality. Because I always thought sleeves with just photos on is such a boring approach. Do you think?
Yeah, we had to, in the end, we caved into Virgin once, and on the Greatest Hits album we had our faces on, but we weren't happy. But it was a deal done behind closed doors that we had to kind of do. But that was the only record we put our faces on.
Yeah, Glenn always quite liked having his face on things, because it's a rock star.
Yeah.
You love that. I was always quite happy just.
No, and it's not. I've got nothing against that as well. I think that's fine. It's just how you want to present yourself, And Andy and I just wanted to present ourselves as a piece of art and some interesting music inside,
Did you and Andy go to art college?
Andy did. Andy, that's where we differ. Andy went to art college. Andy comes from an art background, and I come from electronics background and technical background. And that's why we kind of work together.
And, of course, Andy had a lot of success with different productions and stuff, especially Atomic Kitten and all that stuff. But, and you've had lots of side projects, obviously. OneTwo and what's it, the listening pool and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But did you, forgive me if my research isn't in depth enough, but have you done lots of have you done lots in third party production?
I do quite a lot of remixes for people.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I've just done an Erasure remix actually.
Have you?
For it's going to be there's like a remix album. There's going to be a single released on the remix album, and they've chosen my mix for it.
Oh, that's flattering, isn't it? Considering they do remixes for everybody else. One question.
Well, I also did it as a favor to Vince as well, because Vince and I get on really well anyway. And but Vince did an amazing remix of the flip side of Electricity, was a song called Almost.
Right.
And it was a very important song for Vince, because he went out and bought Electricity when he heard it on the radio, and he flipped it over, played Almost, and it just absolutely spoke to him. And he went out and bought a synth.
I know, yeah. He mentioned that to me as well.
So Almost is an important song to him. So he did an amazing remix for us for the 40th anniversary last year,
right.
Of Almost. It's a beautiful, and so I was reciprocating and doing Erasure. But I've done a couple of Erasure remixes before anyway. So.
Right, I want to talk to you about your journey with synths, really, and I know you started off with the Korg Micro, didn't you? Yeah, and the Prophet 5, is that right?
Yeah, we also had some rollers. We had the SH01 and the SH2 as well, and we also had an MS-20.
MS-20 was great. I love them. Yeah,
they've reissued it now. You know, they're out again.
Have they?
Well, good.
As a physical thing.
Physical thing, yeah.
Right.
I think I might buy them.
Might have to look at that. So the Korg, I'm looking at what it says on Wikipedia, may or may not be true, but the Korg Trident, I don't know that machine. Is that a good sense? I don't really know it.
I don't think we had a Trident. I think that's wrong.
Oh, right, okay. But you said you used the Mellotron as well, a real Mellotron.
Yeah. Well, the thing was that we got into choral things because a friend of mine, Dave Hughes, who was in a band called Dalek I Love You.
Yeah.
The Liverpool band, and he started very early doing film soundtracks, and he still does film soundtracks. But he was doing a film, and he hired a choir at Parr Street Studios, Amazon Studios in Liverpool, and the choir was so good that he did. They finished early, and he was still paying them. So he said, "Okay, you're still going to work. I'm going to get you all to sing really, really long notes. Right? I'm going to get you to sing really long notes, and in a whole octave of
of course."
And then so he had them all on quarter tape, and I had a knock one evening on my studio, and it was Dave, and he said, "Look, I tell you what, if you will make tape loops out of these, I'll let you have a copy." So out of all, because obviously you can only sing a song for a note for 10 seconds.
Yeah.
So I made loops out of them, and then when he left, I started playing with these loops and created Souvenir.
Right.
And we really liked what the choral sound did to our electronic sound.
Yeah.
Souvenir. So then we thought, right, we need to have access to choirs now. So what do we? So there was the logical thing was to buy a Mellotron.
They're heavy, aren't
Mellotron. Oh God, ridiculous!
Oh my God, if you carried them upstairs, Jesus Christ!
Yeah, unbelievable. But yeah, the Mellotron was fantastic.
Yeah, I love it. I always wanted one. I was offered one of Moody Blues Mellotrons, and I thought I really want it, but then they were asking too much money for it because I used to love the Moody Blues. Right. And then the Vox Jaguar. Tell me about that.
Yeah, cheesy organs. We did a good line in cheesy organs in earlier as well. We had a Vox Jaguar. We had an Elgam. We had a Farfisa.
Oh, I love it.
The Farfisa had a great drum box in it, and we used that drum box a lot. It had one of those, and it had that accompaniment thing. But we used it on a song called Statues, actually, and it's a really beautiful song. We just kind of messed it up a bit.
And then, of course, we all moved into kind of Fairlight and Emulator territory, where things started getting more serious. Really, could do anything with those buggers. I was still very disappointed with the sound of the Fairlight, but we used it for a couple of albums, I think, before. But I thought the emulator was fantastic.
The emulator was brilliant, and the emulator really kind of changed our direction as a band, really, because we were always into sort of music concrete and using found sounds, and we used to sample on our before there were samplers, but our way of sampling was to put it on 1/4-inch tape and then fire it in, on the play button, which was essentially analog sampling in a way.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden we had this machine that we could put anything into.
Yeah.
So we did dazzle chips.
Yeah.
We got an emulator and gave us dazzle chips, and it almost ended our career. So that album, because it's commercial. But people think that's our masterpiece.
I see. I like
so many bands like Radiohead and
I like dazzle chips.
side bands. Really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Me too. It nearly killed us, but I really thought Virgin were going to.
They get you in the end, don't worry. I love a quote. I love a quote that somebody said about in fact, it was in another interview I was reading of yours, and I'm sure you've said this several times, but the idea that people wanted you to be either, Stockhouse or Abba, and you said, why can't we be both? And I really like that.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of how we approach things. I mean, the thing was, we loved our experimentation. We always loved to experiment and do the full of like really odd, strange pieces. They still are, But we also realized that we had a knack for a good catchy tune, and we like a good catchy tune as well.
Yeah, wrong with that.
And we tried to put tunes in our more experimental pieces as well, because we don't want to be experimental for experimental sake. We like to, just like this is this weird idea, and you hear it once and you go, okay, I don't want to hear it again.
Yeah.
Interesting, but don't want to hear it again. So we really respected Abba, and we thought they had the most knack of writing an incredible catchy tune, and maybe subliminally we kind of took a few things from them.
Yeah, I really like what I like about your career and the way obviously you carried on with OMD until '89, and then they did OneTwo with Claudia. Realize that was 13 years, right? Is that correct?
I had
no idea. And I love the fact that you were doing things because you just really believe and always really believed in them, and it's like a kind of.
I never wrote one song for commercial success.
Right.
I think if you try to write a hit, you're on a losing wicket there already. Well, you have to just do what you believe in.
Yeah. Do you teach?
No, I don't actually.
Oh, no. Because everything you're saying is what I tell my students. I said that if ever in my career I have been tempted, or occasionally I've tried it, to do things for commercial reasons, the money always runs away, and then if I do things from the heart and for artistic reasons, it attracts people, and it's hard to make young people understand that now, I think.
Yeah, that's right. And when we were starting out, it was really cool to be different and try different things and be different. In today's society, everyone wants to be the same. Everything's, so much music is generic.
It's true.
It's really annoying. But I mean, there are some great things out there. There are some really interesting things out there. But in the pop charts, everything is just incredibly generic for me.
Wow,
it's design and
I think a lot of them are interchangeable. I mean, if you took the vocals off them, you could probably switch the backing tracks and just change the vocalists around, and you wouldn't know the difference. Which is really depressing if you think about it. Okay, so tell me what were you most proud of with OneTwo in terms of your output?
I think the Instead album was a really good album that we did. I think, I mean, Claudia is a really good songwriter as well. You know?
Yeah.
She's a really great songwriter and an amazing singer.
Oh yeah.
We you know, I had a long relationship with her, but you know, I met her through work because someone I had a label in Liverpool, Telegraph Records, and I had China Crisis signed to them, and I had Pete Coyle from Lotus Eaters signed, and several other artists I was developing. And I went to Cannes to try to sell to Cannes Music Festival to try to sell, you know, the business one, try to sell my labels and the bands to other labels around the world. And someone approached me, and I thought they were interested in one of my bands, but they were representing Claudia, and she was looking for songwriters. And so that's how I met Claudia. And we hit it off musically really, really early, you know.
Well, she's a
she's a great.
Yeah, she's a conceptualist as well. Yeah.
Good. Right. That's right. So that's why we kind of hit it off.
Yeah.
And
so good. So that's that. And then, so if we come up to the present, are you writing any new Orchestral Manoeuvres material currently?
Yes, we are. Yeah, we're writing. We've got a handful of songs for the new album already.
Right.
But it's just taken a while because, you know, we're not sitting in the same room. But I'm going up to rehearse for the show next week, and so we only rehearse for about 2 or 3 hours a day, just because, you know, for the drummer it's like too physical to go more than 3 hours in the drum.
Yeah.
So we only work for like 3 hours a day to run through the show a few times, and then I'm going to go back to Andy's house and we're going to spend some time writing.
Oh, nice. And when do you anticipate that coming out? Have you got a label, or do you put it out yourself?
No, what we do is we do an album and then find a home for it. That's what we've done. So, you know, we've used lots of different labels. We use 100% a lot in London, but we've released on Sony, BMG. You know, we just find a home for the right home for the album. Really.
Right. Who does all the business stuff then?
We have a great manager, Morel Davis.
All right.
She's amazing, and she was actually a fan of the band. In that she used to follow us around when she was a kid. And which is really sweet. So we've known Morel since she was a teenager, but then she went to business school, and then she ended up working for loads of labels as in all kinds of capacities. She went into the music industry, and when Andy and I got back together in 2005, I think, we really needed a manager, and we knew how good Morel was, and how how respected she is in the industry. So we begged her to, and she kept saying no. We just kept begging her until she guessed, really. Yeah. So she's.
And one more thing is, we've both done Night of the Proms in Germany, which we've only I mean, you've done it lots, but we only did it for one tour, and I keep going back to it, thinking what an incredible concept that is. It really works, doesn't it?
Amazing. I mean, I really thought it wouldn't work, and but we were flown in to see it. We kept saying no, and we were flown in to see it for on a jolly, you know.
Yeah.
And we watched it and went, God, this actually does work. You know, you've got a full orchestra playing to like 20,000 people or something in a massive arena.
Yeah.
These lights and stuff, but somehow playing, you know, pop songs, mixing pop and classical together, and all kinds of musical genres, you know, opera and everything. And you would think it wouldn't work, but it does. It works fantastically.
It's incredible. And the fact they sell all their tickets way in advance, don't they? They sell them nearly in advance without even knowing who's going to be doing it.
Yeah, they're just buying into the concept because they know it works. You know, and when Andy and I got back together in 2005, that was the first thing we did, and one of the things we said to each other when we got back together, we said, look, let's just do lots of things we've never done before.
Yeah,
let's do lots of things we've not done before. Never played with an orchestra.
Yeah,
and so And so when we saw it and we realized that it worked, we loved it. We loved it. We've gone back and done it quite a few times. We've done Germany twice. We've done Spain. We've done all over Belgium, Holland. It's already.
Well, I love it, and I always point people at those things for different artists, because I just think, when else are you going to get a chance to do that? I mean, we couldn't organise a tour where we employ an 80-piece orchestra and a 30-piece choir. It's impossible. So,
what I loved about it as well was the terror aspect of it for me, because I like to be pushed, and have boundaries pushed, and to play. I mean, the orchestra were incredible musicians, and get up on stage and play with these musicians behind you. You couldn't make a mistake.
Yeah,
make a few errors, and the band just will for a minute, and that's it. No minutes. But if you make a mistake with an orchestra, the whole orchestra glares at you. But I love that discipline to have to play really well.
Yeah. The thing is, we're both self-taught musicians, and do an awful lot of people are self-taught that I've interviewed and who I admire, and I just wonder what the relationship is between being self-taught and creativity. I'm pretty sure there's a strong correlation there.
Well, I think there is. I mean, I think if you're taught music, you're instantly taught to play other people's music.
Yeah,
and so you're not applying any kind of creativity to that. You're applying technique to someone else's music.
That's right.
But with us, I couldn't play anybody else's music. I could only play the songs I wrote. Or, So
good.
So instantly when I sat down and played, it was writing something or playing one of my things.
That's it. Or composing to tape as well. I mean, but arrange it direct to tape. That's right. Okay, so this is we're getting close to the end, but we know I ask you a bunch of stupid smash hits type questions now. So this is the fun bit for the. And actually, it's supposed to be fun, but it's turned out to be quite illuminating when you contrast and compare between the different people. So, okay, what's your favourite film?
Favorite film? I mean,
it's all right. Nothing really holds you to it. It's fine.
I like a lot of. I like so many films. I like a lot of kind of French art films. I like some Hollywood blockbusters. It's kind of hard to put my finger on.
I'll just pick one.
Okay. I watched Almost Famous the other day, and I thought that was.
Oh yeah, it's a great film. It really is. Yeah.
Great. Oh, particularly being a musician, see what they go through.
Okay. Your favorite book?
Favorite book? I think, gosh, this is difficult. I wish it's
just meant to be a spontaneous reaction. That's why I don't give you any advance warning. It's like just anything that kind of pops into your mind. It's a bit like a Rorschach test.
Yeah, I'm not that sharp today. I was up all night. I've got a new baby,
Oh, I know. Shit, I remember that.
Oh,
you what? Oh no,
new baby.
You know what? You need to keep it in your trousers, mate.
I know. I've been told that
Too
all
late.
my life and it's never happened.
Too late. All right, we'll bypass the
just
book.
had a vaccination. All right.
Yeah, so we'll bypass the book. Bypass the book. What's your favorite, a moment in your life that kind of changed you forever or changed the direction of your life? An epiphanal moment.
There's been several. I think this is kind of a poignant thing, really, because my family were going to move to Australia when I was a kid, because my dad was in the Australian Army, and he was I'll try to keep the story short, but he was a prisoner of war. He was forced to work for the Nazis as a lumberjack when he was captured, and he was quite ill when he came out of, he nearly died in the prison camp, but he managed to survive. And he managed to survive long enough to have 3 kids, and I was the last one. But he died 2 years after I was born, and so moving to Australia was out, and we were living in London because I was actually born in London. But my mum's sister lived on the Wirral. And so my mum's sister said, come to the Wirral. You can't look after 3 kids by yourself in London. Sell your house. You can buy a much cheaper house up here and live up on the Wirral. And that was probably, my life would have been not different if I had moved to Australia.
Right. Yeah. Wow, that's deep. It's a good story, though. Thank you for that. Other musical artist or composer? Favorite?
Ralph Hutter.
Ralph Hutter? Yeah, why not? And do you like classical music? Are you a fan of classical music?
I do like some. But I'm not a big fan, really.
Right, okay. Ambition yet to be fulfilled.
To live till I'm 100. It's not fulfilled yet. So that's my ambition.
I like that. That's good. Okay, favorite visual or conceptual artist, and you can't say Andy.
I've always been a massive fan of Picasso. Picasso just does it for me. Yeah, I like Mondrian.
Yeah.
I like kind of impression as well.
Yeah. Which of your own work is your favorite?
It's hard to pick songs, isn't it? It's like picking your favorite child. It's not possible to do that.
Yeah.
But I think album-wise, we've made a lot of albums, but I think 3 of our albums really stand out, and that I'm really proud of. One is Architectural Morality.
Yeah.
One is Dazzle Shit.
Yeah.
And our last album, The Punishment of Luxury, I'm very, very proud of.
Fantastic. And I think I agree with you on those 3 albums, by the way. Definitely.
Have you heard?
Sorry?
Have you heard?
I've heard yeah, I've not heard it all, but the tracks I've heard are really like. Finally, the final question is your favorite synthesizer.
Ooh. Favorite synthesizer. That's also like asking what's your favorite child, isn't it?
Except they're not going to get offended if you pick one over the other.
Yeah, exactly. Not going to get offended. So I'll go for the Micro Preset because it started a whole life.
Yeah, I think so.
Micro. So
Do
it started a whole life.
This has been. I have to tell you that of the 50 or so interviews I've done so far, there's only one synth that has been duplicated when I've asked that question, which was a VCS3. Yeah, everybody else has picked up. Yeah.
See, we had a VCS3, and I struggled to make anything decent out of it.
I know.
It's different character. I mean, Eno managed.
Yeah,
it's a different character. Eno, made a career out of it.
Yeah.
The early Roxy stuff was VCS3, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Well, Paul, it's been an absolute pleasure. I knew it would be because we get on really well.
Cool.
And
I
wish you're.
I don't see you enough.
Yeah,
I don't see you enough.
Well, nobody sees anybody enough nowadays, but we should we should do more. Are you going to be based in? Are you still going to stay in France?
Yeah, but I'll be coming over. Well, when the quarantine thing goes and we get back to normal, I'll be coming over to London a lot.
Right.
It's just a pain in the side right now I can't just hop in and hop out,
Yeah. Telling me. Well, please give us a shout, when you're in, and we'll go down to the Groucho Club and have a drink.
Definitely do that.
That'll be good. All right, man. I send my love to your family, and don't you get catching COVID again, all right?
I know.
No variant.
Believe you can. But no variant. I know.
All right, man. Thanks so much. I'll see you soon.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, see you soon. Lots of
Lots of